Clay.
Okay, Mike, how are you?
I'm good. Welcome to the November 17th, 2015 meeting of the EDIC. Josh Roosevelt, I'll be your chair today. This meeting is now in order. Did everyone get a chance to look at the minutes that I sent out of the last meeting?
Did.
I did have the time of when we stopped incorrect. It was brought to my attention, and I corrected it and submitted it to Barbara.
And what was this supposed to be?
It was supposed to be 5:30, and I had put it at 5 just because I haven't changed it from the template I was using, which wasn't paying attention, so I changed it.
Okay.
So it's on the up and up. Do we have a motion? Any discussions about it?
The only thing I would just note, it looks like the bullet was made in the wrong place. So the state just released should be the new line. And then the city, the letter of the grant, the letter intent was referring to.
Okay, so that should have been new bullet?
So that the second half of the first bullet and the second bullet should have been one.
Oh, okay, so the city is sending a letter, that's part of the other bullet, okay.
Of the grant as opposed to?
That's part of the urban agenda grant, and then it was a separate item, was the community development strategy.
Okay, I will correct that as well.
But it's really minor, so.
That's fine, it should be on the,
Motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any against?
Not against, I'm abstaining, I wasn't here.
Okay.
Oh, I watched the video, but, you know.
I almost think that if you watch the video, you don't have to abstain, because it's all.
No, you have to be
No,
present.
you have to be.
You have to be here. Okay.
Bodily
That's
here.
usually-
Okay, I'm wrong.
I just wanted to mention one thing on the new business, when Carol brought up solar.
Mhm.
I just say something about that at the appropriate time, you know, and a new business again or something. It's not on our agenda, I just wanted to follow up on her point, that's all.
Why don't you do it under public speaking?
Oh, well, the only thing I wanted to say was, you know, I can't speak on her behalf, I know where she was coming from a little bit, was that maybe we should ask Jamie if he could do a little bit of homework for us and find out how many houses have converted to solar in the past year and a half, 2 years, and not go too far, but I understand it's around 250, but that was anecdotal, I don't have a number for that.
And can we say adopted and not converted?
Yes, yes.
I got 21 panels and it's not
Yeah, right.
converted.
But I think it might be something that might be, once we had a little bit of facts, might be kind of interesting to talk about.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are you able to, or are there resources where we can gather that information?
I mean, so the building department keeps track of all of their permits, and I don't have access to their systems. So any request would really need to go through them, and
Okay.
Do you want to make a request on our behalf?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
That's no problem.
Cool. Okay. Also for public speak, I would like to add to the next agenda a discussion about local works. For those who don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, the EDIC started an offshoot, a subcommittee to address keeping business local within Easthampton. We adopted the name of Local Works. We were around for about 2 years, maybe 3.
Yeah.
And then we kind of gathered it back into here because we felt, A, we needed the more energy in EDIC, and B, Local Works was kind of floundering. And the only reason I bring this up now is just because I am the administrator of the Local Works Facebook page, and I seem to be getting hits on it all the time. I mean, at least 3 times a week, they'll say, Local Works was seen by more people.
Nice.
So probably at least a dozen people a week will like the Local Works page. So I think.
That's interesting.
I think I may not be like, but at least look at it or show interest in it. So I think we should discuss it next. I'm gonna put it on the agenda next time if we can.
Okay.
Does it say how long they spend on it, or is it just a hit?
No, I think it's just a hit.
And so your reason for bringing that up is that you want to rekindle the committee?
I don't know if I want to rekindle it or not. I think we should talk about it. I mean, if enough people say, yeah, we should do it, yeah. I'm not sure how I feel. I'm not sure I'd want to be on it. Just being the chair of this, and I would play this. I would think we would have maybe 1 or 2 people from this group go to that, and we'd recruit more people.
And I wonder if there would be much difference really between this group and that group, anyway.
That's
in
true.
terms of what they would.
Do we
be
know,
covering.
is it still active?
Yeah, I mean, the page is still active.
No, I meant the people.
No,
The group hasn't.
No, we haven't
The
met.
subcommittee,
Then
I
how
guess
is it-
everyone was encouraged to join the EDIC. It was a subcommittee of the EDIC.
Right.
And all the members were encouraged to join the EDIC. And I think you were the only one who did. The other
Yeah.
members.
I thought the girl, is it Denise, didn't she?
Denise Ricks?
She came for a
she
while.
She
came for
did,
the-
she came a couple times,
She
but
never
never
joined the
joined.
EDIC,
Right.
but then
Right, but she attended.
Carol Abbey Smith joined as the arts representative in her
In
place.
instead, that's right.
Um, And.
So the group is still active as a
No,
group?
No,
No.
no.
It is
On
not.
There-
Sunset
there's
it's
still-
So
covered.
how is it getting, where do the hits go?
Oh, it's on Facebook.
I understand, but
It just means someone
That
opened
means
up
it
the
goes off
page.
and
Just
then
means
never,
someone opened
never,
up
never.
the
but who
page,
keeps
he
the page
can't.
up, I guess
No,
what I'm
me.
asking.
Josh.
Me.
But there's
I mean,
no,
I don't-
there's no
okay.
updates to it, right?
No, there are no updates to it, which means I probably should.
So what is the page? I should look at it.
Well, if you go to Facebook, just look up Local Works.
Okay.
Maybe you could put something there that says, you know, thank you for checking on this site. If you're interested in joining Local Works, please put your name here. So then you know
If we
if someone
decide to
just.
do that.
We'll just,
Yeah.
yeah, if there's interest, if you have local interest or
Yeah.
something, make it very vague. And that way, maybe you can garner the people that are hitting it. But it's a digital problem altogether on trying to gather statistics and data on what happens in the digital world. Just because someone clicks on it doesn't mean they even read it. So it
So,
could be
you know,
just nothing anyway.
I think we've got a lot of ideas here. Let's make it an official thing next time, and we'll really talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Any other,
Yes, I would like to add to the agenda for next month, deciding on a date for the downtown cleanup for 2016.
okay,
So we
just
can
to nail it
have
down
that.
so we have it.
Yep.
That's a
Not
good
last
idea.
minute.
That's a good idea. And then-
That way I can plan my vacation.
Oh,
There you go.
I'll plan my vacation.
Okay, any other public speaks?
Well, I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for being so generous in helping us with our international students that visited the high school. You shared some gifts that you had that had Easthampton on them, and then we just had 2 educators from the Netherlands that are Dutch, and they received bags and some things from the Chamber, so we appreciate the help in giving gifts to our visitors that come to the high school.
Happy to help.
It says Easthampton. Here.
Okay. Planning Department report.
So, mostly, we just have some new permits that have been approved by the planning board. There was a new retail space that was permitted on Union Street. They're selling spa products up by the, where the furniture recyclers used to be.
Spa
Like-
products meaning,
Like hot tub supplies and chemicals
There
and
was one
things?
there before, years ago.
Or like-
almost
No,
in the
no,
same
it's like,
place.
I think
Wax,
she's
paraffin,
doing homemade.
Like that
Yeah.
that one.
Oh, that
Hair
kind of-
products.
like
and-
luxury spa, like
Yeah.
day spa
Oh, okay,
stuff.
like beauty supplies kind of.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
yes, sort of.
Okay.
There's a new membership gym, athletic membership club on Northampton Street where Nikki D's was.
No, no,
Oh,
no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, where Matt Linnell's garage
Yeah, Nikki
was.
D owns it.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
where
yeah.
Linnell's garage was?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's right, because Mike passed away.
yeah.
God, there's a lot of things.
Yes.
Next door, there was a single family house and that's gonna be converted to a massage type studio. There'll be 3 therapists working there, working on, I guess, people with like cancer, like things that, it's not just like a general massage, it's more of like a therapeutic
Lymphatic
healing.
drainage.
I know,
No, she's a tenant of mine presently, yeah.
Is that
she's a-
Healing Tree?
Yeah, she's a therapist that does different things, but along those lines.
yeah, so they bought the property and will be converting it from residential to
Where's that?
next door to, in
National
between
Carpet.
National
National
Carpet
Carpet
and where the
and-
gym is gonna be.
On Northampton Street.
Yep, on Hammond
Oh,
Street.
So what's the one on the corner there? The first one you come to? When you're heading out of town, when you go through the lights?
That's the carpet place.
National Carpet.
It's still the carpet place?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I never seen anybody there, I just wondered if it was still around.
I bought from them
Yeah.
a couple times.
Okay.
Area rugs.
Okay.
And off the map tattoo, is a permit to expand to where the New England Felting and KW Home is.
Wow.
They're gonna be doing seminars and using the space to do production, like video and of their tattooing.
In addition to what they have already?
I
Or
believe so, I
it's
believe
moving
it's an
on the street?
expansion and not just a
Musical chair.
Wow.
Did you see the line out there? This
I was
week?
gonna say, they did
you
a
see
nice
the
job
line?
with that
Wow.
whole,
$50 tattoo
Things.
donation fundraiser,
That's
yeah.
good. They're good people.
they did very nice, you know.
They did the logo for Cultural Chaos for free, gratis. Are the Felt Place and KW Home, are they downsizing?
I don't know what their plans are.
Okay.
or
They're
their
still in
move-
business though, right?
Yeah, I just don't know where they're moving or if they're moving out and they're taking over the extra space that's sort of empty right now.
Okay.
I'm not,
I should know that since I'm on the Cottage Street Cultural District. Bad, no biscuit.
do you know?
I don't,
Okay.
no, I haven't talked to Keith in a while.
Do you know anything about, the status or, you know, of, 15 Cottage Street? Is it 100% complete or 100% moved in?
That was my understanding,
I was
that
just
it
curious,
was, you know, they were given their occupancy permit and that the building inspector refused to give them a partial permit.
Uh-huh.
Meaning that as far as the city's concerned, it was habitable.
No, I mean, did you know if it's fully leased up?
I think so.
'Cause you
I know
drive
that
by
I
it,
had
the
heard,
lights just doesn't appear that way to me, but I was just curious.
I had heard that there's and it might be that for some of their units that are required by,
Not positive.
I know that there was like a 2-year wait list for, I think, 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. So
Uh-huh.
it might be that the ones that are severely income limited or smaller units might be.
I was just, yeah, it's not important, I was just curious, I just wondered if you knew.
Okay.
The
Knew
diver.
anything, that's all.
The divers.
Is that the one next to the old gas station there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The old average.
And it's attached to one
Diverse.
Cottage Street.
The Diverse.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know what you mean, Dave, when you go there at night, the whole top level seems dark.
Yeah, I just, it's not, you know, I just noticed it the other day driving home, I mean, there's different schedules, but it just appeared to me that I thought I would see more lights, that's all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, you know, it's just a feeling.
When I first noticed it, then
Yeah.
I've been tracking it since, every time I go by at night.
Oh, yeah?
I look, and I go, looks dark.
Interesting.
People are saving power.
Maybe they're early sleepers,
Yeah.
That's right, could have been very
A
early.
lot of third shifters.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
So that's what I have from.
Do you have any information on, unless I've been on the loop too long, Stop and Shop at the,
It's the same
behind
story.
the ice cream
that
place at
it's-
all?
it's-
Nothing?
You know, the permits are valid and it's on the property owner and Stop and Shop to pull building permits, but until the special permit's valid, I think, for another year or 2.
Mhm.
And,
Is
So they don't
Stop and
talk
Shop
to
paying
anybody?
taxes on it now?
No, no.
They're not the
it,
owners.
Yeah,
Through?
they were paying the taxes, but their agreement with the owners, expired. There's a valid option, they're paying minimal rent, so the taxes are being paid by the court.
Okay, but so they are paying rent though still?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I guess they're just negotiating amongst sale or lease terms, and I guess they haven't come to.
Okay.
And Fedor?
That's a huge space.
It is, that's a huge, huge block of land.
Yeah.
Comparable to one behind there at the Queen, the ice cream shop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But more visible.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there, right in front of your face, but
Yeah.
it's too bad.
So someone owns that, is it still the Fedor company that owns that?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
And now are they paying the taxes on the property?
They'd have to.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Chuck,
I
they
mean,
always
I-
pay.
Well, it was Eddie owns this one, but yeah.
Eddie,
they're-
yeah.
they're-
You'd wonder how long they could do that before it got to be a crunch.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a waste of money, actually. Well, it's
Not very-
not, but it still is.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's too bad.
No, it is, yeah.
It would be nice to have something in there just so it doesn't look like it's
Yeah.
empty and run down. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing, the zoning map was approved by city council, so the digital map should be online,
Nice.
Cool.
and if it's not online, it will be shortly.
Now, as far as the location online, is it still through the city assessments site, or is it gonna have its own link?
What we're gonna try to do is add, where it says zoning ordinance, we'll just have like a link to the map, that'll be a static digital
Oh,
map.
good, I think it should be with the planning
And
department.
then you would, but if you go to the online assessment, you would be able to get more specific.
Yeah.
And drill down,
I see.
so that there will be like an official digital map on the website that you could download and do for the whole city.
You know, the online assessment site and Chrome aren't playing well in the
They
sandbox.
are not working.
I
yeah.
know, I know.
Really?
Yeah.
They are not working.
So I had-
Yeah,
so does it
it's-
work through,
and they
Firefox?
have a message
It
that
works
says,
with Firefox.
download
Silverlight.
Silverlight,
Yeah.
and you do that,
Address.
and it still doesn't let you
Yeah.
in.
So I made the
City
mistake
site.
of putting, for the first time in years,
Oh,
going to
I know.
Explorer.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I also tried that.
What is the city
Have you
site
tried Firefox?
address?
No, I
Easthampton.org.
should, I
Yeah,
tried
Firefox
Chrome
is
and-
good, I've used it in
okay,
the past,
yeah.
it's good.
And from the city's homepage, easthampton.org, you go to the list of links on the first page, and it says online assessment tool,
Okay.
which brings you to an off-site website, which is CAI, but I'm not sure what I think it's like CAI Tech/Easthampton or something like that, but I'm not sure what the exact URL is, so it's easier to get there from the website.
This is kind of a planning board question, I guess, or a planning department question. So I heard that Easthampton has adopted View Permit, or is using View Permit now, is that true?
We aren't using it.
You bought it.
Is that true?
I wasn't involved. I don't know what where that process is. When we were going to roll it out, the building inspector was on medical leave, and what I had heard was that it didn't make sense at the time to roll it out with the temporary building inspectors and all that scheduling. So I don't know where that's at right now.
But what is that?
What is it?
It's an
It's
online permitting management system, so you would be able to submit an application online, you would, emails would go to, the different boards with the
Oh.
applications,
When it's
you would
up and
pay-
running,
you would
right,
pay your
yeah.
permit fees online, there'd be, I think, a way to search it to see what permits have been granted, and, it's online permitting for.
But it gives you a history of the property though?
No.
Like I said, I haven't done any trainings on it, so.
No, it doesn't.
So the history is with the permit itself?
Yeah, it gives you the history of the permit process of it. It's kind of office, you know,
Yeah.
in the city, but then you can also, as a citizen, create an account and go online and do business, and also check records that are. It's very transparent. There are some bugs, a lot of bugs actually.
Yeah.
It really depends on who you have as your tech support at the other end, you know, who's assigned to the town, I guess, to cover it, how quickly the fixes are in. But it's kind of buggy. It's supposed to work so that you can actually apply for a permit online. And then one really good feature of it is that it notifies, so when you put in an application, it'll notify all the other relevant offices in town, and then permit doesn't issue until everybody approves. You know.
I personally like applying for my permit in person, but all the other stuff I would love to be online, like the communications and stuff. I don't mind following up on it in person, but to get that first communication, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you for that, Jamie.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to go talk about the master plan anymore? David, did you want to?
Only if you guys want to.
I mean, we didn't,
I know where we left off, but,
Yeah.
but,
Well, okay, let's.
or we
quickly
can,
look-
or we can jump to the other things first. if you
Well,
want.
yeah, I was gonna say, let's look at the other things on the agenda and see, what's important. We're also gonna talk about the elementary school space development. We don't have to do that now, but, the zoning change for the, 130 and 36 Cottage Street, is that where the old flywheel was? And zoning for housing geared towards senior citizens, that we don't necessarily have to do now, I'm not sure. And feasibility for, 1 Ferry Street.
Well, I had brought up, 7, 8, and 9, and I think Tom Brown might have brought up number 6.
I added that after what we talked about it
Okay,
at pretty
yeah.
much length. Do we want to keep the master plan just as a backup thing for when we can go back and get to after we do more important stuff?
Well, why was it brought up in the first place? I mean, are we talking about amending anything, or, I mean?
I think
Okay.
we wanted just to readdress it and make sure everything was still fresh.
And also, I think we're looking for a little direction.
I mean, that's where it came up, but I was trying to figure out what the EDIC was, the goals and the purpose, and what the EDIC wanted to work on. And through a series of discussions, we ended up with, well, let's look at the master plan, because that was, written by the city. It's the plan for the city, and if it has reasonable things that people want to work on, then that might give the committee a place to, a direction to go in. And from that, I think that's where the elementary school space development discussion came out of. From my perspective, I don't think we had exhausted that conversation and the discussion.
Was the
of
master plan last looked at when we did the big deal at the old high school in the auditorium with, what's that gentleman's name who was the director of it? Till we walked the whole city and we did all that stuff, and we had several meetings with communities, groups, and
I think that, you're thinking of the prior one.
was that the first time we ever did it?
Yeah.
And when was that
You're talking
second?
about with Walt, well, Walt,
Walt, yeah.
yeah, but Walt, I might be wrong, because Walt helped us, I think 3 times, but he was our original consultant on Cottage Street, like in 2000,
Mm-hmm.
and there was, I think 2, if not 3 walking tours.
Yeah.
It was the envisioning and
Yeah.
then the re-envisioning.
Right.
and,
The
And then-
envisioning.
But there was, and that led to that Cottage Street grant specifically.
That was the very first time we did it.
And,
That
but
was
Walt
the
was our,
old high school.
Walt was one of our consultants, Jessica was a consultant, and Walt for the last master plan. And, he led some charrettes, and then John Mullen led a few charrettes, and we had a big event at at 1 Cottage Street. And then, we had some other events too, but I don't
When
remember.
was the
seeing-
last one?
There was one at Eastworks, wasn't there?
But I don't remember one at the high school, but
Well, that was way back, but I was just,
it's all a blur, but
I wondered how many we'd had since then.
well, since the master plan, nothing like that has, on that scale has occurred.
Is that why we're looking at it? We wanna look at it heavily now to see if we need to do something again to
We're
update it?
not like looking at it to update it. We're
Just our
looking
chapter.
at it, just the economic development section,
Okay.
and just
That's what I
to,
thought we would
just to
discuss.
guide the
Where do we
committee,
fit in, yeah,
just to guide the committee to try to figure out what,
okay,
if there's anything in there that this group wants to work on.
okay.
Well,
I thought some of the other things that came out, some of the other topics on here, like about Cottage Street, wasn't kind of the rezoning of this 130, 136, kind of an idea that is connected in a way?
Well, you could probably very well find some backing there. I myself put those because I think that it's a good opportunity to start pushing a few things. The city council seems to be receptive to, you guys had luck with your you did homework and they presented it, and I just thought that maybe now in that, like 130, I guess the address is 130, 132, though I'm the one that said 136, but, I think the city would be accommodating, but strictly speaking, I don't know what you can do with that building, because it's been abandoned, or vacant. It's not conforming,
The
And,
zone is commercial.
no,
No.
it's
So it's
residential.
Is it really?
Really, all the way around up to,
Around the
Right,
bend, yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's the commercial stops at Nini's.
okay.
So that's why I wanted to think about rezoning
Okay,
it to
right.
commercial,
Yeah.
based upon its history. And in that way, a prospective, interested party would, may have one or less two hurdles. I mean, I think there's issues that we can't solve, but, I think technically, when you go in there, you would have to get a variance to do anything.
I believe you're right, and it's being marketed as commercial.
Well,
You know, if you check a listing,
Yeah.
in any of the listings, it'll say commercial, which, well, that's debatable.
Excuse
Right.
me, I'm
Because
just trying to
it's
get clear on,
abandoned.
is that the property that as you are heading up on
It's
141, it used to be a
It's the curve.
chiropractor?
Yes,
It's
Oh,
the
yes,
curve,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Thank
so
you.
it's, you would need a special permit to do anything, you wouldn't necessarily need a
Oh, yeah,
variance.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think-
So that's zoned
Because
residential?
it's a pre-existing non-conforming use,
But it hasn't been used for 2 years for that purpose.
except that when you actually look into what it means to be used and what it means to be abandoned, they don't follow the sort of vernacular definitions.
Hmm.
And there's been a lot of case law on this, and basically it's a willing,
Hmm.
a willing abandonment, so you can't necessarily hold a business or a person liable for a bad economy when a building won't rent. If they're actively trying to rent it and they're trying to, like, that's as if the use were still
Hmm.
wanted. But if they like just completely wash their hands of it and it's been a very long time, might be more than 2 years, then
Well, I think
But
it's.
might they have an easier time if it were actually zoned as
Yes.
commercial?
yes, it would, because when people come in and they find out that it's zoned residential and they have to get a variance to do, or they have to get a special permit,
What about it?
and they
Mhm.
just decide, well, we'll go to somewhere else.
Yeah.
We'll go to a building that's, so there've been 1 or 2 walk-ins while I've been here that.
And that's the number, you're talking about 130, 131, 132, that's it right
Yeah,
there?
and,
Okay.
I mean, I think the city might be accommodating, but it's, the thing is, like, the 2 years, I think it's longer than 2 years, I don't, wanna get into that and split hairs. I just thought if the committee was so inclined, we could put a proposal together, not this minute, but we'd think about it, to the city council, then they could,
I think it's a good idea.
I do too.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I would just think that there are a lot of properties in the city, somewhere between 1 and probably 40, that are zoned in this sort of weird, they're zoned for one thing, but they're being used for another. They're either pre-existing non-conforming, or they're from a time when we gave variances for use, but we no longer give variances for use anymore. And that's bigger than just this one property. And I would think that it's appropriate for the board to pursue all of those properties,
As opposed to just one?
as opposed to just one.
Well, is that more
And
than
then-
we could, we're biting off more than we could chew right now? I mean, that's a big
No,
problem.
but
I mean, but
I
the
think
thing is
he's
you-
got a point
she-
though, if you
she-
lump them and mention where they are and what they are, and what maybe they could be to grow Easthampton, that's not a bad idea.
Okay.
well, I'm not opposed to that either. However, then, the planning department will have to give us a report of those properties. I don't think we really wanna get, like, say there's 40 properties and you put, this is 40 properties, all I wanna say is, thank you, and I pass on to city council. I don't know if we really wanna get into debating the merits
I agree,
of,
yeah.
property A over property B, blah, blah, blah.
Then we might.
I don't mind being, like, taking a step back to be more efficient in the long run, but I don't really wanna get into the, like, well, that probably, the hell with that, I don't wanna get into that, I'd rather not know.
Well,
And-
and some,
and there
and
are-
some of the reason that we're looking at the building that's been empty for 2 years is because it's a gateway into our city.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
that's part
Yeah.
of our,
That's a very
our
good point.
focus
And
as
if
to why
he's
that's.
right, and they're
should-
being held back because of a variance they need,
That's right.
now they
Exactly.
wouldn't be if. we
Well, they
could
might
get-
still need a special permit, but I just think if we could take away 1 or 2 obstacles,
Mhm.
and
Right.
we can't
Does it
solve
make
it.
a difference, on some of the properties you're thinking of, are they, are they properties that are being used, like in a residential zone, that are being used for commercial purposes, and they are bordered on both sides, or they share a property line with residential properties on both sides? Whereas, and this one's different because it actually is connected, it will
Okay.
continue the commercial zone around the corner, which, you know, so
I mean,
I'm just looking at the differences of what David's talking about here in terms of not trying to weigh the merits of one property or the other.
Yeah.
And if there are many like properties that are somehow share in many other ways some of the same problems as this one.
Another reason
then I
that we
would lump them
should probably
together.
find out what they are, then we could make a better decision on
Is
it.
it possible to get an analysis of what they are?
yeah, I mean, so the difficulty is, I have access to zoning maps, which tell me what things are zoned. I don't have access necessarily to.
Do they use?
They don't have flashing red lights on each property.
Right. So like, I don't necessarily know, there are some uses that, you know, we'd know. If there's a retail or commercial building in a
So
residential
without
zone.
really going out and taking a walking assessment, you wouldn't know
Off
necessarily.
the top of my head, I can think of a few.
Few.
And it's really a question of, you know, and we know of some
So-
because people have come in to ask about them.
So I guess the bigger question would be, is that, you know, we'd have to ponder and answer for ourselves, do we want to get involved with that bigger piece that Jamie suggested, or do we just zoom in on this one piece because
Yeah.
it's the gateway?
She
Into
made
the
a good
city.
point,
Yes,
but
I agree.
if we're not able to really identify it,
Right,
I
so
don't
you
want
have to
that to
kinda make
hold
a
us back
decision
from
as to
this
how-
one crucial spot.
You know, and also, I mean, I think it applies to all properties, even though I'm being a little bit of an advocate for this property. Sometimes it's up to the owners to pursue this. Now, the owner might have a different point of view than the planning department. I mean, the owner might like the present use, but the planning department sees the future, says, well, it should go this way. You know, so the owner's not gonna come in, obviously.
Well, it-
But I don't wanna open, I also don't wanna complicate a process. I
Pandora's
think when you
box.
have something that's kind of straightforward, and then maybe we're also developing a template, like, well, the EDIC was able to have this rezoned for appropriate reasons, A, B, and C. If you talk to them or your city councilor, because any councilor can submit its own change. This is the template you could follow. I'm a little bit nervous about opening up a can of worms, just for a silly example, but not too silly, Fort Hill Brewery. Well, if they're changing the zoning, maybe we should change, the
Yeah.
neighbors might say, maybe we should change the
There would
zone.
be-
Maybe we should look at that zone and maybe have a buffer zone between this, I don't wanna get, I don't wanna get dragged down into other
Well, here's the
other
other,
things.
another thing too is that any particular owner may be, like you say, be completely happy with what's occurring there and may not want the change, and if we come in and we make a sweeping
Yeah,
attempt, then now we've got another
I mean,
issue.
even this property, remember, there still is an owner.
I'm not saying it's bad.
Is it one owner all the
just-
way around Anini's? Or are there multiple?
I believe it's there's one owner, and she.
One owner of this property?
She's a widow.
Yeah.
Can I see?
It's the orange, and then if you go to the next page, you can see what the building is.
Okay, yeah.
And
Well,
is
that's-
does that owner, is that an active owner, or is it,
My understanding is that she's not very active.
is she absent?
I mean, she lives in Easthampton. They've owned the property, I think, since the 60s or the 50s. The zone was changed in the early 70s. And so it's been a residential use since the early 70s.
Okay. So-
And at the time, both the husband and the wife were pretty active and had opportunities to change it. They were also notified of the zoning map changes, and
So does
and they
this
did not respond.
particular owner, Dave, is this a change that they're looking to make, or is this
No, I
something
don't,
we're
I
observing?
think she would be fine with it, she's a widow of the doctor that owned it, and, she is moving on in life, faculty wise.
Right.
She's,
Maybe we could, this
but I,
could be a,
there is a, executor, or not executive, she's working with a lawyer, I mean, I think, it could, once he got to a stage that was, if it was feasible, they could, asking for her blessing would be not a, or
Okay.
her opinion would not be hard.
My take on this now, part of it is in the interest of time. Good point about all the other properties that are in a similar boat, but this one is important right now, because, as Gail said, it is the gateway into our city.
And this could be an example of
It
what.
could be an example.
We could say in our
I say-
thing
I
that
say
there are
we
others.
Can I also
I
just,
say we should pursue this.
Well, how many,
I do want to point out that there is a cost associated with doing this, and the cost is the same whether or not we ask council to look at 10 properties at the same time or one property at the same
Oh,
time.
yeah?
Which
What's
it's
that?
not more than just their time. What's the cost?
Legal notification, anytime you do, so the process, the way this works, the proposal goes to city council sends it to the planning board and the ordinance subcommittee, both of which who have to have a public meeting, which requires legal advertisement. Often they combine those meetings to one meeting, so they save the cost. But then the city council also has to have public meetings and legal advertisements, which they do regularly anyway, so they have more of a budget for it. But it's saying that we wanna do 10 of these throughout the year.
Oh, I wouldn't have to
We're-
do
we're
that.
gonna
No,
spend-
No, no.
But we're not thinking
So
that.
typically,
But
that
we're not
sort
thinking
of
that, and we could leave
pursuit
it up
would
to
be
them.
undertaken by the property owner, and they would be providing dollars
Right,
for those things.
right, so if they wanna submit their zone change, then they pay for the cost.
I'm just saying this could be an example of what the others might wanna think about
Yeah,
doing.
and
Yeah,
it
but we don't
doesn't
have that.
have to be up to us
It doesn't
to
have be
decide
up
for them to have that
Them do
legal
it.
meeting.
But also.
No, it does, because once you make the request,
Right,
once it's petitioned to the city council, they don't have a choice.
They have to.
They have to.
and it's your baby.
But I think even that question though, just say for example, we get bullheaded and we submit this only to city council. City council could say, no, that's nice, David, but I wanna look at all of the properties that
Well, no,
Jamie.
what she said though, that
Right, but
because
city
we
council,
petitioned it.
city council has, will be providing some direction. I mean,
Mhm.
they don't have to accept our request.
Didn't
Right.
she just say they did?
They have to, if you submit a
ask
zone
them,
change
go on.
proposal, you're submitting it as, you're not just asking them to look at, it's one thing
But
for
do
the-
I have authority to, I mean, I
Yes,
thought,
because then the way that a zone change works, it can come from the planning board, it can come from the city council, it can come from 10 registered
right,
petitioners in the city or a property owner who's affected by the ordinance. So
right.
in this case, in order, if 7 people on the committee, that's, 3 more people to sign on a petition.
But we're just an advisory board, we're
Well,
not a-
then we have to go get a petition. I mean.
It's a bigger
I was-
Or if you
I was
get,
hoping
or
to have it,
if you get the property owners, if you have the property owners
Right.
consent, then it's
They can apply.
then it only needs the one person, which is their consent. The EDIC can be the medium and can get, send out
That's
letters.
the way,
It can be the,
maybe that's the
um,
way to crack it.
well, but I thought it would be
Motivating
simpler though, just to say to city council, this is an idea we have, would you mind putting it forth? And they might say, that's a good idea, Dave, but no. Then we can go back to the petition or ask the property owner. I mean,
If we have, I'm not really understanding the relevance of the fees for the advertising for public hearings part of it. Because that happens no matter what scenario, if it's introduced by a city council member, or if it's by petition or anything else, and it comes to a point where there have to be public hearings on the matter, the advertising is gonna be, it's the same cost. I don't understand the
advertising
relevance of
anyway,
that.
right?
but it comes out
It's
of
got-
a
but
different
no, but I
pocket.
think what you're saying
It
is,
comes out of what pocket it's the advertising? If you're applying in front of the planning board or the zoning board, it comes out of the property owner's pocket. I
Right,
don't
but
understand.
you can't,
Right, but-
you're saying that we can take, a bunch of different properties and then bill them for something that they're
No,
not
I'm
looking
not
Right.
for?
saying that at
You
all.
have
Who
to-
are we gonna bill? Who are we billing? I don't understand what you're talking
What
about.
what I'm saying is that if the EDIC is gonna go forward with this, it makes sense to be as economical as possible and to get a list of the properties together, so it's one hearing and one advertisement and not,
And I think,
multiple-
correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah.
Jamie, but if we bring this forward, then
Mhm.
we are responsible, the EDIC,
Mhm.
for paying those fees. Is
No.
that right?
No, no.
No.
No, it's
I
not
don't agree
at
with
all.
that. No, we're not. We're an
Okay.
advisory board, we don't have any.
It's just,
And let me-
Our
If
Somebody
budget.
has to pay
Well,
for it.
and let me take
I mean,
a
I-
quick
I-
step back for just a
it's a
second. I'm
public
sorry.
hearing and the city pays the advertising
Right.
fee to the newspaper to run an ad to say there's a public hearing on this matter.
Right.
That's
Okay,
all
but
it is. The city does that routinely.
But I want to take it a big
But
step
it does
back.
go for, it's billed to the applicant.
Not if there's a petition though, you can't build a petition.
No, it's billed to the applicant if you're doing an application before the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, it's
Well,
billed to the applicant.
And if you,
but
and
this
if
is-
you're, the most recent example of a zone change was, on Main Street, that property that went from downtown business to R5 to back to downtown business. And they paid the cost of their legal advertisements,
That was initiated by the property owner,
yes.
yeah. So, are you suggesting that we get on board, first of all, we get a large group of properties that are maybe disparate in
What I'm saying
quality
is
so that?
if the EDIC puts one property forward, it's much harder to justify why this city should be paying that cost for one property owner. If we're looking at it comprehensively and there's a bunch of properties, it makes sense for the city to do that notification.
But
Because you're not just
But you
looking-
just
you're
said a
not
little
just-
while ago that it was gonna be difficult to identify all those properties. And I don't want that to be keeping us from,
I think
But
the
I think
advertising
we're
is.
getting way ahead of ourselves. I think, I don't know, the whole interest here is because this is not renting over a 2-year period.
That's
Is it
right.
going into a
Right.
3rd-year period?
Probably
Yeah.
fourth or fifth.
Yeah, it's clocking a lot of time,
Yep.
so it's standing vacant,
Part
so.
of the cottage
it's-
cultural
it-
district.
Yeah, it's part
Exactly.
of that, it's
Yeah.
part of that entrance to the cultural district, it's a gateway piece, and it's deteriorating.
right?
So that's what's made it a focus of the discussion at this table.
Yeah.
Versus all other properties that might have similar zoning in town that are rented, viable, working efficiently, and they're fine,
I agree.
they're fine.
We should act
If,
on
we
it.
don't-
if, yeah, but we don't have a comprehensive list, and.
If there was one, that'd be a different story.
Yeah, I
If
mean,
there's
if one
not,
could be brought to the table for us to look at, that would be great, but.
I don't wanna have that hold us up on this, though. I agree. This is
Yeah, I
important.
think our focus on this is
Yeah,
because
and I'm
it's.
saying this can be an example when somebody sees, well, this was a good idea, why are we looking at other properties?
Okay,
to
so
do the
let's,
same thing?
let's address how we can do it without having to run up a lot of costs.
And
Maybe,
it has-
maybe it's a question of going to the owner.
This
And asking her.
this section of Easthampton has been a focus of discussion of the AIDC for a long time.
It has,
I mean,
yeah.
some of Walter's and our very beginning work started right there
Mhm.
on that, the island across from the property. So it has a historical connection to the purpose and why EIDC got established in the first place.
Well, I don't have a personal or business stake in this, I just think it's good for the community and the gateway and all that stuff.
I agree.
I don't mind taking a step back though, and maybe just simply, in order to start the process, you start off with one, we submit this to, city council and Jessica, and we wait to hear their comments. And if city council and
That's good.
Jessica say, whatever they say, we'll go from there. I mean,
Right.
you don't have to run up the flagpole right away.
It's a starting point.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Do
could
you
ask for
wanna-
opinion and feedback, and we could even
Yeah.
ask in a letter if they can identify similar cases in the same situation as this, not similar people.
Or is this a good
similar
idea, and how
like
can we
type
help, or
pieces.
tell us
Yeah.
to go to hell, whichever
You
one
know
we
what,
wanna do.
let's draw up a letter. Do we have to vote on it? I don't think we do.
Well, one has to be written, and
Right.
if it's gonna be written by us, then it's gonna be a job, I think, right?
I delegate that stuff.
Well,
I
I
mean,
tell you
I get
what,
lazy and I take.
why don't you and I work on a letter together?
Sure, that's
Okay.
not a problem, yeah.
Okay, I mean, it could even just be talking on the phone at one
Yeah.
point.
And it could be a
But let's
letter
do
of
that.
inquiry too. I
Right,
mean, it
okay.
doesn't have to be a letter of purpose.
Okay.
So you want the board backing of this, do you not?
Well, I do, but let's do the
Yes.
letter first.
Let's,
And bring
you
it
know
back.
what, I'll put this at the top of the agenda next time,
Yeah,
Okay.
and we'll have a letter by then that we can distribute. We won't talk about it, we'll distribute it so we can address it and discuss it when we next meet in
Okay.
December.
Yeah.
Okay. And in the meantime, if we do have a more comprehensive list or an ability of getting it,
Yeah.
then let's go.
So
for it.
I will,
Bring it
in the meantime, I will try to generate a list of the properties other than this one.
You can stop at 10. 40's a lot.
Well, if there are
I mean,
40, it's worth
Yeah,
addressing. If there are, and you know what, I'm happy to, if I have a list of them,
I just-
I'm happy to
yeah.
drive around and look at it.
I just think it makes more sense to do it comprehensively, and I think that.
Unless doing that stalls us on this. So we're gonna,
So if we
we're gonna
can,
proceed
so
on that,
I'll
but if-
generate a list and see what I can come up with here, and if you guys work on the letter.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, I didn't have a timeline on this, but I agree with Josh. I mean, if from today until inaction was a year, and then in that year, other things shake out, that's fine. I just didn't want the starting date to keep getting pushed off
Yep.
because of other things. I mean, whatever the time frame is, it is what it is.
Yep.
But until we get started, you
Yeah,
No, I
can't.
get
think it's
started.
a good exercise to go
Yeah.
through nonetheless, no matter what.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's a great idea, only because earlier, hearing that there's a business, the spa, which I thought was like, you know, pools and spas. I believe that only leaves one empty storefront on Union Street.
Really?
There's the new one that was renovated on the,
Next to the barber shop?
west side, yeah.
Mhm.
But that, you know,
That's
I walk a lot up and down Cottage and Union, and so that's been standing vacant for
Yeah.
some time. And honestly, my wife and I, when we go for a walk down Cottage, we stop right in front of Nini's because there's no point in going, it's kind of depressing to go around the corner. The
Yep, I
sidewalk
agree.
is not swept.
Been there a
It's-
long time.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
been abandoned for a long time, and it would be kind of neat to see that alive with something.
Just like the
So-
building next to the auto store down there.
Yeah, Hurry Scurry.
Hurry and Scurry used to be, it's been a hole in the
Right.
wall for a long time.
Yeah, and
The
then
other
if
one.
those things were
Is that-
like, yeah,
Building, is it falling apart? Is it condemned? Is it?
It's condemned,
Oh.
it's got big X's on it. If you
Right.
look closely, you can see,
Yes.
through the front windows, you can see daylight.
It's not a big
There's-
property,
there's-
but
I
it's a
think there's
prime
tree growing
product.
in the middle
Yeah.
of
I
it.
mean,
So
it's
what
right
is
there
it
on Main
like-
Street.
What is,
on
like, so
Union
it's been
Street.
condemned, so what does that mean?
Well,
you can't go
So
in it in
the-
case of firefighting efforts.
right, and so it's
in the
not
building.
fit for human habitation.
Right.
The property owner pays taxes, and the property is, not,
Until it falls down, nothing
I mean,
happens.
I don't know what sort of recourse the city has to force a property owner
Well,
to
I think
take care of their property, other than.
Right.
Right.
Well,
It's
there's
not
nothing,
taken
I don't
care
think,
of, and
once,
so
if they're
there's.
paying taxes, I don't think there's anything
But
other
I
than
think
security.
though-
I think they wanna sell it, but they
Then-
want too much for it right now.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but
I've
I
also
think-
heard redevelopment plans for that building.
But I think in that
by the
particular property though,
so-
the planning department and the mayor probably should just, away from the press, just ask the property owner what his intentions are.
Yeah.
Because he has the means. And then,
He certainly has the
just, and
means.
let him, just, don't, just, then go from there, because
It's unfortunate, because it's such a
Right.
sour
But,
spot.
Mhm.
I don't know what else to say, but he's
You know.
pretty tough skinned, so he's not gonna be shamed into doing anything. But maybe a conversation could start doing something, and that'll be a very slow snowball. I mean,
I just, I
I won't go fast.
We have had those conversations.
Oh, yeah, okay, great,
and-
great.
So basically.
But it's
we're
just, you have a conversation, and then it's still not it's still not the city's,
Right.
Yep.
it's,
Right.
the property owner still decides the right market to do it, and that they wanna put the
Yeah.
money into it.
Well, it is a dangerous building on the outside. Anybody can, if you just observe the overhang in the front, anybody could be standing under that overhang because it's free to the public. It's open to the public.
Yeah, a
to
kid
stand
frolicking on the way home from school on
And
that
that
sidewalk.
overhang is really
Yep, I
unstable.
agree.
It could fall down any time, and
Yeah.
snow's coming on, so with added weight, and I'm
That could be part of the conversation too.
personally surprised to see that it's not fenced off across the front, so that can't happen, but
Yeah, I mean,
it's
Well,
really dilapidated, that,
Okay.
it's that
Yeah, it's
bad.
ugly.
You're running out of time here.
okay.
Time.
Okay, well,
So we'll work on a letter.
so we'll have those plans for next time.
Yeah.
Um,
that 7?
That's number 7.
Okay.
It's gonna be number 5 next time. Zoning for housing geared to senior citizens and elementary school space development, I think we can talk about next time. The feasibility for, is there anything anyone doesn't think we need on here?
How about, what did you do about 5 and 6?
Oh, we haven't talked about it.
Okay.
But I'm gonna put the master plan lower on the thing, so that could be when we have time.
Okay.
An elementary school space, even though that's not in the imminent future, in the near future, it is still in the future. So I don't, it's not.
We're talking about elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just met and approved the fact that they're gonna consider us for a school.
The city's first meeting is November 30th. I mean, so I'm sure it's just an organizational meeting.
Yeah, I think it's
And you already
more-
have a board.
That's what I'm talking about. I mean,
Yeah,
I
so
don't think-
what
we
we're
haven't
talking
organized
about, Mike, is what we suggest is done with that space, with the schools that are not being used.
Because the school might look, that committee might look for opinions.
Yeah.
And we can,
So I
for
wanna
our
have-
great opinion.
Yeah. Okay, so that'll all be there next time.
Well, I mean,
Well, that's gonna depend, the discussion about those schools is gonna depend on what they decide to do.
Well, we're pretty sure, it's a very good likelihood that that building will not be used.
Understand?
So what I'm talking about, what we're saying is, we want to have some ideas to what our opinion is on that space. So,
What space?
the
Center school.
Center
Center
school, yeah.
well, Maple Center.
And Maple Center.
And even possibly, I always call it Park, but Pepin.
Pepin.
You know, and then,
Okay.
you know, it is a campus, those two.
Really is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Does anyone
It's-
have anything else for today? I'm sorry for cutting you off.
No.
Next one is 12/15.
The Ides of December, yep,
Okay.
okay.
Who got killed on that day?
I don't know.
The Ides of March, we know him.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, we are adjourned, thank you very much.
Who says someone has to get killed?
Right?